Chaos is a ladder, and climbing it to the tippy top of the NFL ranks is Liam Littlefinger Coen. Coen, in cloak and dagger fashion, has seemingly facilitated the savvy political move of finessing the pieces on the chessboard correctly to oust Jacksonville Jags GM Trent Baalke and clear the runway for him to become the team's next head coach while garnering riches and tons of power. In true Game of Thrones fashion, in the same stroke, he pissed off the Tampa Bay Bucs fans and stumped their front office. The Jags also somehow, even after making what seems like the right move, came off looking somewhat inept and dysfunctional. Classic Jaguars. So let's get into it. The hire of Liam Coen in a vacuum is inspiring stuff for the Jags. At 39 years old, he's considered one of the brightest young minds in the sport. He's got that sparkly Sean McVay shine to him after working as an assistant wide receivers coach and quarterbacks coach for the Rams in 2018, 19, and 20, and then spending the 2022 campaign there as an OC. In the season in between, Coen was the OC and QB coach at Kentucky, and he made Will Levis look great. Yes, the oh-so-memeable Will Levis. It was back to Kentucky again in 23 in the same role, and they fell off drastically without him this past season as Coen went back to the NFL to take over the Bucs offensive coordinator job. Meanwhile, in Tampa, Coen's offense flourished. The Bucs finished third in the NFL in points per game at 29.5, and they did it with an island of misfit toys too. He helped resurrect Baker Mayfield. He won with an aging wide receiver in Mike Evans and got tons of production out of former mid-round draft picks like running back Bucky Irving and tight end Cade Otton. The Bucs were third in the NFL in yards per carry after a ranking of dead last the previous year before Coen arrived. Now, being honest with you, I live just outside of Tampa, and this hurts as a Bucs fan. We lost who many decided in their minds should be the next Bucs head coach. And had the Bucs missed the playoffs, or had they gotten blown out in the playoffs, maybe we're looking at something a little bit differently. But this was the guy that Bucs fans thought was mostly responsible for the success this year, just like they kind of thought that a young man in Carolina right now, Dave Canales, was the success and the reason for it the year before in 2023. Bucs management is rightfully pissed off. They were ghosted by Coen for more than a day while he took a second interview with the Jags after turning them down and opting to stay in Tampa, setting off a chain of events that led to Baalke getting the axe in Jacksonville. Again, reminding you of Game of Thrones at all? Now, this came after he agreed to a deal with the Bucs that would have made him the highest paid coordinator in the NFL history. The verbal agreement was contingent on him not taking a second interview with the Jags, which he did. Apparently, he used a sick child as a reason for the lack of communication, according to Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. It was a mess yesterday. Jeff Darlington reported that some within the Bucs organization felt like Coen was ready to be a head coach, but they couldn't rightfully fire Todd Bowles after another playoff performance and another NFC South divisional crown. They now will move to their fifth offensive coordinator in 5 years, and that only adds to this angst from Tampa. Meanwhile, the Jags dragged their feet in firing Baalke. None of their coaching candidates wanted to work with him given his reputation as a coach killer, and so it appears that they acted desperately. Now, Coen gets an absolute sweetheart deal, about the same amount as Ben Johnson got from the Bears per Diana Rossini, and he gets to have a major say in picking his own GM. Now, there are big questions to answer. Can he spark Trevor Lawrence, much like he did Baker Mayfield? Trevor with likely much more talent, much more ability, much more physical gifts. Can he do the same thing he just did for Baker for Trevor? Because if so, that's a huge win for the Jags. We all know what teams need to be successful in the NFL, and it is an elite quarterback. Is this Jags job more appealing than the Bucs job, given that the Jags have a stud wide receiver rookie in Brian Thomas and some really intriguing building blocks on defense, and again, that aforementioned Trevor Lawrence? The dust has now settled, though, and Coen screwed over his former employer by backing out of a deal, lying to them, taking advantage of a desperate franchise. It's a beautiful mess, and Coen looks down at it all from his elevated rung on the ladder. The question, though, will this end better for Liam Coen than it did for Littlefinger? You just got to love the NFL in all of its drama. Listen, I appreciate you guys for tuning into Pro Football Addiction. Hit the subscribe button and let me know your thoughts down below here on Pro Football Addiction.